He's a Twitch streamer, political commentator, and co-host of the podcast Fear and Malding. Please welcome Hassan Piker.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, let's get into it. What a week. Facebook's oversight board, a little fake Supreme Court the company created, ruled that Facebook was right to suspend Donald Trump for encouraging violent insurrectionists, but said that the punishment can't be indefinite. Now Facebook has 6 months to either make the ban permanent, reinstate Trump's account, or create a new baby boomer monster so terrible we forget all about it. They have 6 months. I do not understand why Facebook was like, I know what we can do. Let's create a little mini star chamber to evaluate all our decisions to get out of trouble. But then, of course, that little body now just exists to kick the thing back to Facebook. I think it's just like, enforce your rules. Like, you don't need a 6-month period after the fact. Like, the only reason it's newsy is because they didn't do the right thing all along the way.
Oh yeah, 100%. The thing that I will never understand about Facebook is that they'll just straight up participate and play a significant role in doing genocide in Myanmar, and then after that they'll admit to guilt and then go, oopsie, sorry, we kind of did that, sorry that happened, but not a big deal, we'll learn from that. And then they never end up learning from that. But the best part about this Facebook story, in my opinion, always is the conservative reaction to it, because I don't have a Facebook account. I deleted mine like a while ago. I just only go on Instagram, still a Facebook property. But conservatives run that platform, especially on the news side. Like, if you look at top 10 posts on Facebook, it's always like Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro. It's like literally all stacked. Like, reactionary conservative commentary blows up on that platform, as we already know. And yet conservatives still cry about it all the time. They're like, Mark Zuckerberg is a Jewish space lizard and all this stuff, while that guy is killing it for you. Like, it's your bastion, it's your outlet for completely unregulated misinformation.
I like that it sometimes goes, Dan Bongino, Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, straight news story from CNN about some sort of FBI raid, and you realize that that's because people think it's about Q, and then it goes then it goes Dan Bongino, Dan Bongino.
Yeah, I never really thought that it would get to a point where I would think to myself, like, man, Fox News is like actually better overall than this. Like, a propaganda outlet created for the Republican Party, which is responsible for so much of that misinformation running rampant on Facebook, still looks more, they're still awful. They're the lowest of the low. They're scum, right? But even then, in comparison to what you see on Facebook, it's like, well, at least they're not saying that there are space lasers and forest fires are being caused by that.
Fox News is horrible. Facebook is just as horrible, plus some stuff that isn't even allowed on Fox News, which is why, like, all those surveys come out and, like, who's the most hesitant to get the vaccine? It's obviously it's Fox News listeners, but even worse are people who just get their news from conservative social media. Like, that is even fucking worse.
Yeah, the people that were like, Fox News is not good enough for me, I'm moving my talents to Facebook only, and the
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Look, I watch Trump fans and conservatives religiously. I think they are significantly funnier than anything. Like, no disrespect to all the hosts and people that come on your show, because I know you got like a lot of SNL comedians and stuff that come on here. I have some friends that were hired by SNL as well. Congratulations. But, like, it's just, you're never going to be that funny. You are never going to be as funny as, like, just a straight up conservative in the wild, right?
It's
but they still cry about it. Like,
yeah,
and they were crying about this board. They were crying about the decision of this board on Facebook, on Fox News, shockingly, of course. And I was thinking, like, but you're upset, but this board is literally helping you. Like, this board, once again, is basically saying, like, you can't indefinitely suspend someone without giving a reason. So the board technically is still on the side of the conservatives, at least in, like, creating a more fair process, right? and they're still complaining about it.
It's also silly because like the board is like, oh, you didn't fill out the proper paperwork to stop global misinformation, so we got to kick this back. This has to go right back. You have to go to now. You're in. You filled out Form C to stop a coup, but you actually need Form J. So you're gonna have to head back to the back of the line, do this whole thing again.
No, it's great. It's liberalism on steroids in a weird way.
In the meantime, Trump has launched a website where only he can post. Have you seen the Trump blog?
I have not yet. I unfortunately, Trump is a very visual medium for me. So when he's not like personally there, like I need to see his body. I need to see the space he occupies to be able to fully appreciate him. So when he's not there, he's just like writing stuff. It's like kind of whack for me. So I don't really look at it. But no, I mean, I can take a look at it right now though.
It's basically his own little blog where you can actually click a little heart to like it, but there's no counting. I think it just lights up on your screen. It just makes it a little lit up heart next to it. And I think it's fine for Trump to have a blog, but I do think it's kind of bullshit that you have to scroll through like 10 paragraphs of personal grievances before you get to the actual brownie recipe. You know, it's like,
wait, this is he's doing a Substack. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, listen, Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, and now Donald Trump. He saw that Substack was popping off, and he's like, I need to be a part of this. This is great.
I do think of, Trump is the Barry Weiss of Mar-a-Lago in a lot of ways. I think they all make sense together. I think
creating fake grievances all the time.
I think they all should have one. I mean, it is amazing. It is amazing how much of this is based around being silenced. But the only reason we hear about them so much. All I do is hear about these silenced people. I wish they were silenced like a little bit. Like, can we just silence? Yeah. Can it be a little bit right that they're being silenced so that we hear about them like 30% less? That's so hard.
To be fair, like, I mean, this is a hacky bit that I do at this point, but like the silent majority has never been silent. Or ever been the majority. They are just the can't shut the fuck up minority. Like they literally, but we hear about them all the time, but because they're entertaining and because it's good for ratings, but also because they're like just charismatic and entertaining in their own unique way. I don't know. Maybe I appreciate it too much, but like I went to a QAnon rally. It was a cuties rally because, Netflix was putting out some French movie or something. With like young girls,
right?
And cuties. It's supposed to be like the personal account of an immigrant from like a Muslim background, and like the mishmash between the repressive culture from her home country and the over the top sexualization of children in France, right? And it's supposed to account for both of those experiences and like criticize it, but of course people were just like, yeah, I don't care. Which I can't really blame them. I mean, we should ban all French cinema and ban French people in general, but that's right. Entirely separate.
Not enough people are talking about it.
So I went to, not enough people are. You're right. So I went to this rally and I felt at home. Like these guys they're so wild. They're so interesting to me. I don't know. I feel like an anthropologist. I feel like Jane Goodall with the chimps when I'm around these people, and I love, speaking their language and just like make grievances up around them and, basically like penetrate their armor. Because at first they see me with a camera and they're like, wait a minute, is this guy going to make fun of us? And I'm like, no, brother, you're right. Like I'm here for George Soros. Like, and then wonderful conversations come out of that. It's like very creative.
Like what? What are you learning from these people?
So one thing that I love doing is I'll talk to them about like, I'm like, yes, I am obviously very much anti-pedophilia. It's bad. So I'll bring up, which is the most obvious point.
I think it's look, not again, worth saying.
Not enough people saying this. But I'll ask them like, okay, so what's up with child beauty pageants? I hate that too. And conservatives fucking love child beauty pageants. I do not know why, but like the main host of like this QAnon thing, who is like who's like a white rapper, of course.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And he has like a wonderful rap career on the side. He loves beauty pageants. He loves child beauty pageants. So like I'll have a conversation about that. I'm like, so what's up? You think like the Cuties movie is like sexualizing children, but then you said that your cousin like goes to child beauty pageants and you support that. That makes no sense to me. Like, it's just wonderful conversations like that. Oh, and that Tom Hanks is a pedophile. I don't know why.
Because he's famous and they've all heard of him. That's why. This doesn't need to be more complicated.
Yeah.
Also this week, Joe Rogan received backlash for comments about the vaccine, and he kind of walked them back, sort of. He sort of walked them back. And he said he's not anti-vax. He encourages many people to get them. But just to be safe, Pfizer is rolling out a shot aimed at his core audience, and it is called Vax Body Spray.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's pretty good. It's good.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Vax Body Spray. Listen, I watch Joe Rogan. Okay. I used to be a big fan of Joe Rogan. Hung out with him one time, like many years ago, before he like went down the Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson rabbit hole and became like this weird reactionary guy. He's just a guy who's having a conversation, who doesn't really know too much, and will like willingly admit that he doesn't really know too much. But the problem is, like, he has millions of stans, right? Like K-pop stans, basically, except they're not 14-year-old girls. They're like 35-year-old adults living in Iowa that now, go and do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And so those people hanging on every word of another guy who's like self-admittedly is an ape, and he literally is really weird. It's a very, very weird situation.
There's this thing of like, oh, I'm just a guy. I'm just having conversations. And like, that is something that I think a lot of people who reach a lot of people will fall back to sometimes. I remember even like, Jon Stewart, when he got that, in that famous fight with Tucker Carlson, one of his defenses, and I think fairly, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's like, I'm a comedian. You're a serious person, right? You're supposed to be an expert. I'm just making dumb jokes. Like, I come after a puppet show. But with like Joe Rogan, it's like, he's having these conversations and he reaches a ton of people. And it's like, if what you're saying is it's important to expose people to like a lot of ideas, and that's all I'm doing, I'm just exposing people to ideas, you kind of recognize like, ideas have power. Words have power. And one of the things that goes along with believing that people should hear all kinds of ideas is a baked in assumption that like, we respect the freedom of speech because speech is important. It has value. Good ideas can spread. Bad ideas can spread. Like, ideas can become viral. Ideas can leave our conversation and reach other people. That's why we believe in the freedom of speech. But if you really do want to have a place where you reach millions of people, take some fucking responsibility. Like, no, you don't get to just say, oh, I'm just having conversations anymore, because anti-vaccination myths are deadly and they spread beyond your control, and the people listening don't know that you don't take yourself seriously. They think you think ideas matter and you should act like it. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. There's good ideas, and then there's ideas like we should build a white ethno state. And like some of those, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. That's not an idea that you should be platforming.
Yeah, it's not a maybe pile idea. That you don't have that. Get it out of the maybe pile.
Yeah, unless you're already equipped with dealing with that kind of misinformation and the stuff that these people who are literally propagandists are going to throw your way. And if Joe Rogan is very ill-equipped. A lot of people are very ill-equipped at dealing with like white nationalists and stuff. He doesn't do that as much. Now he's just moved on to the regular conservative power hour type beat. Like, he used to just straight up have like Milo Yiannopoulos, Stefan Molyneux, or the fuck you say his last name. These are people who are like straight up white nationalists and have collaborated with Nazis and have said things that Nazis have also said, right? And Joe Rogan used to platform them and is responsible in some way, in some parts for their success. He moved on from that, but now he's just doing the anti-vax stuff, which is, again, I think really silly to just platform as though it's just a regular old idea. And it comes from this like very weird, maybe it's because I'm Turkish, but it comes from this very weird like American sensibility of hyper individualism and entitlement, where it's like, oh no, this idea is unique and important by virtue of me, a very important and entitled person, coming up with it, and you need to listen to it and you need to actually take it seriously. It's like, no, dude, no, I think that's what we need to say more frequently. Like, this notion that like we have to hold everyone's point of view to the same value, I think is kind of stupid. we should just relay expert information when it comes to certain things, instead of looking for the one guy in a sea of scientific consensus, for example, that will correspond to our personal biases that vaccines, give you the gay disease or something, like whatever the fuck these people believe. They're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just, in an age where we can hear from everyone, there is always going to be a contingent of people that have an alternative point of view. And that means you can either decide to ignore those things or say, well, because we don't want to cancel anybody, all ideas are debatable. Everything's in the maybe pile. Everything. There is no idea, no concept, no vicious point of view about racism, whatever, that doesn't deserve an opportunity to be debated basically everywhere. And like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it would be, in theory, all ideas are debatable, but unfortunately in the real world, specifically with how much power the status quo and social conditioning, like white supremacist patriarchal constructs, heteronormative constructs, like how much power those still have, people can very easily take that stuff one step forward and one step further and start radicalizing people like that. And we saw it happen already. But the thing I was going to say about Joe Rogan, though, is that like he's a very unique dude in the sense that he had, you know who Michael Osterholm is?
No.
So Michael Osterholm is on Joe Biden's CDC or COVID task force. Okay. He is a epidemiologist, a disease expert, right? Joe Rogan had this guy on March 10th of 2020. So this is even before we hit the apex of COVID. And Michael Osterholm was warning everyone about how dangerous this is. And Joe Rogan was just sitting there and listening because he's a information sponge, basically. He just sits there and agrees and, hypes the guest up. So a guy who was at the forefront of like COVID prevention and so early on with like such a smart guest to come and talk about COVID has now turned into like a Facebook QAnon mom with the way that he deals with this pandemic, where he's just like constantly complaining about mask wearing and talking about the efficacy of mask wearing this far out, like, or now vaccines, like pushing for vaccine hesitancy at a time when it's like, I just want to go back to normal, man. And we are so incredibly spoiled and so incredibly lucky that the American government just hoarded as many vaccines as possible when the rest of the world is like suffering. And they still, I mean, look at India. But even if you don't look at India, look at all of these other, even Western nations that did not get as many vaccines as we did. And we have an abundance and we have a surplus of vaccines. And now vaccine hesitancy is like a big hurdle that we can't overcome. It's really stupid. It blows my mind how selfish and entitled and spoiled we are as a nation.
And like, obviously, like there is tons of research on what is effective to get vaccine hesitant people to get the vaccine. That's not this conversation. Don't play this for people in your life who are vaccine hesitant. There's such arrogance in it. There's such arrogance. It's like, this is a fucking miracle that happened. This is 30 years of basic research. This is the luck of these of experts with a good idea finally getting funding despite being denied it for so long. This is like the fact that these vaccines worked right off the bat. Like, it was so fucking plausible that it would be like June of this year and Fauci would be like, another minor setback, but we're super excited about 2022. Like, science has saved us in so many ways, but the fact is, like, I will always remember that over the course of the past year, the best information, the best science, the best experts could not overcome the kind of like cultural and political rot in our society that like made this last so long and get so bad.
Oh yeah, it's like combined collective thousands and thousands of hours of like brain power from some of the top minds versus one Facebook meme. Who wins? Well, it's the fucking Facebook meme that wins. That's what it's mind-boggling, but it is the way it is. The one thing I will say about the vaccine process is, though, I did get my first vaccine. I got Moderna and then immediately painted my nails black. So maybe they have a point. I don't know. Maybe they are force feminizing everybody.
I hope they are. I hope they are. That would be so nice.
Yeah,
It
so
would be so
I'm
nice.
force feminized already. I haven't even got my second one. Who knows what'll happen? But the thing I was gonna say is like, what made me feel very hopeful in a way about the future of America when I was getting this vaccine was that I come from Turkey. We have a national healthcare system. Like there's private healthcare as well, but there's also public healthcare. And that's what I grew up with. I saw for the first time in my life in the States where there was a healthcare service provided to everyone unconditionally, right? And it was wonderful. Like it was fast, it was effective. You know, you're just in and out, no questions asked, no insurance needed, no money needed, and it was a beautiful thing to see. And I hope that this mass vaccination program, which has literally impacted or touched basically millions of Americans and hopefully 70% of the public, if we're lucky, at the very least, will open up a lot of Americans' minds to the idea of universal health care because it can be done. It's something that other countries do, other comparable OECD nations do regularly, obviously. Uh, and I don't know. It was just like it was a wonderful moment where I was like, damn, like I don't need to be thinking in the back of my mind like I didn't have insurance at the time because I'd been kicked out of coverage because I was on Cobra, a whole different story. And no questions asked. I got my vaccine, and it was beautiful. And I hope that more people can comprehend that.
I hope so too. Because I had funny. I had the same reaction. I was like, oh, there's no form. There's no like proof of income. There's no insurance card. There's nothing. It's just simple and it works. And I do think like that's also carried through in the economic response, right? Like going more to checks as opposed to kind of a more complicated, kind of nudged based, stimulus bill, which is I think a lesson that Democrats have learned from the last 10 years. The fact that there's this child allowance that's picking up speed. The fact that like we may be able to at least we're back to at least trying to lower the Medicare eligibility. Like there is a movement towards simpler, cleaner, bigger government help that people can see and feel instantly. And I like, given the fact that Joe Manchin is basically standing in the way of HR1 and it's getting harder and harder to imagine right now anyway, like how we can get that done. Like, well, we have 500 days. We have to protect the vote and we have to figure out how to make sure people know that Democrats did what they said they were going to do. And hopefully we'll be able to get some more of that done because I totally agree.
We'll see. I don't know.
We'll see.
I haven't I think Joe Biden has done a lot of great stuff so far, but I was suspicious of their interest in even pushing for the public option, and I don't see a lot of that at all. I think that's just like completely dropped at this point. And I feel like the healthcare industry is very powerful in this country to the degree that like I don't see the Democratic Party making tremendous leaps in making a more ethical, more compassionate, and more efficient healthcare system anytime soon. Hopefully, I'm wrong though.
I don't think you're wrong. I do think that, like, you look at Biden's been pretty straightforward. He's like, I want to do infrastructure. I want to do the jobs plan, and I want to do the family plan. The family plan is about childcare and all these other aspects of family support. And there was this push to get healthcare as part of that, and they basically were like, we don't think so. You can be critical of the moral calculus there, but I think the political calculus is we have one opportunity to do these big popular things. Healthcare is very hard, and with the slim majority we have, we can't do the kind of big reforms that the left wants. There's not that much of an appetite from the moderates to do. Let me say it like this: that like they don't think they can get done the big reforms that the left wants, and so they're focusing on the jobs, infrastructure, economy plan. They're focused on the family plan.
Yeah, no, Build Back Better is great. It's watered down Green New Deal. Like, listen, obviously there's areas of improvement. Like more funding is a necessity for certain parts of it. But like, I'm not gonna sit around and complain too much about it. I understand it. I understand the calculation that they're engaging in. I just I wish there was more of an effort into communicating the message on healthcare and its importance as well. But look, it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Sorry, I know this is supposed to be funny. I'm like, I
No,
feel
this is
like
good.
I'm not being funny at all, dude.
You're
Shit.
doing, hey,
I'm gonna crank
once
it up.
again, once again, keep running yourself down. All right. And that's not what
Okay, all
that's
right.
not what this space is about. All right.
Okay.
That's not what it's about. The official cause of Prince Philip's death was revealed on Wednesday. According to the final death certificate, the Duke of Edinburgh died of old age. The cover-up continues.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. You know, the good ones always die young. It's crazy. He had so much ahead of him. Like
He was so vibrant.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely never looked like a walking corpse at all over the course of the past couple years. The crazy thing is, like, he survived a car crash. Like, he was driving a car like recently and got into a car accident and still survived. Like, this dude was, they have him on the best adrenochrome. I don't know what these rich people are doing.
Yeah,
I don't know how he survived that long.
Got so much adrenochrome. Too much time for you at those QAnon rallies.
Oh, hell yeah. No, yeah, absolutely.
On Monday, Bill and Melinda Gates announced that they would be divorcing, but they sat down with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and made it clear that it wasn't their fault, that even though they don't love each other, they still love the foundation the same amount. And the foundation was like, 2 fucking Christmases, bitches. This is awesome.
I'm excited. Melinda, hit me up. You know, I'm single, ready to mingle. Mackenzie Bezos, you can hit my line too. You know, my DMs are open. Please.
It's a dating app, but it's just those two.
Yeah,
they just get a million options. They just get to swipe
I feel like
through.
they just wanted to let their freak flag fly. You know what I'm saying? They were just like kind of hard. I assume at that level you're just like, you're probably having like an open relationship to a certain degree. I mean, we know Jeff Bezos was. Yeah, I don't know how open it was for Mackenzie there, but I'm just looking forward to their divorced dad arcs. Like, let's see how much of how closely they resemble Peter Thiel by the end of this year, when they're like victims of family court, which is the #1 Republican aggregator. That's the number one thing that turns men into Republicans.
Men's rights.
Yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner talked to Sean Hannity about why she's running for governor. The dumbest fucking shit. But she talked about one conversation she had that really explains her motivations. Let's listen to the clip.
My friends are leaving California. Actually, were my hangar. The guy across right over from me, he was packing up his hangar. I said, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm moving to Sedona, Arizona. I can't take it here anymore. I can't walk down the streets and see the homeless." So
Caitlyn Jenner is like, just one example of my private jet is next to this other guy's private jet, and he's moving to Sedona because his eyeballs saw homeless people, and seeing the homeless, that they hit his eyeballs was enough. He had to get out.
Too much. Famously, no homeless people in Arizona, so that's also good. Listen, it is a big problem. It is certainly a big problem. Luckily, I'll be voting for Caitlyn Jenner for governor, of course. So I'm very excited to see what her proposals are to combat the homelessness crisis that is facing everywhere around the country. I'm sure she has plenty of, she's probably pro public housing, that sort of stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Looking forward to her platform. I haven't seen anything on her website. She hasn't posted anything. She's going off the very successful Donald Trump method of just like being famous and getting a lot of media attention for no reason whatsoever. But who knows what'll happen.
Look, if you want to be elected governor of California, the first place you go is Sean Hannity's show. Like that's where you need to be to reach the majority of people in this state. The Biden administration announced that they're backing a proposal to waive the intellectual property protections for COVID vaccines, which is great news for humanity.
Absolutely.
With the big vaccine brewers, like you kind of know what you're getting, but like I want a craft vaccine that has like a little paragraph on the side that tells me the story of the husband and wife that were sick of the boring corporate vaccines and always dreamed of creating their own vaccine that reminded them of summer nights in Oregon. That's the kind of, that's what we're looking for here.
I think Bill Gates is having the worst week of his life. First, he got the divorce. Now, the Joe Biden administration said they're waiving the patents. Right after he came out on Sky News and was like, "Oh, we just can't waive the patents." He literally told Oxford that you should not do that. You should not open up the IP for everyone. And that's the reason why the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was limited in its distribution. So he's just one after the other.
I don't really get it. So everybody should listen. Like today, in this episode, I talked to Lori Wallach, who is an expert on trade and patents around pharmaceuticals, and it was a great conversation. But talking to her, it really is it is stunning how bad the arguments are against waiving the patents, and so many of the arguments around supply chain, around how they won't be able to do it. They fall apart. And so I understand why Pfizer and a big pharmaceutical company would make that argument. I don't totally understand why Bill Gates is making that argument. It's not like I don't get it. Like, I don't know what he's afraid of.
I get it.
Because
if you waive the intellectual property of something, and point to a crisis, especially something that is like controlled by the big pharma monopolies or oligopolies, then who's to say that one day down the line Microsoft's patents are not going to be waived? Like, that's the way they operate, I think, because it is the class solidarity that is demonstrated by billionaires, millionaires, and the wealthy quite regularly, quite frequently. And that is why I just could not wrap my head around, like, why, for example, the tourism industry wasn't losing their mind over not opening up the vaccines. Like, you didn't really hear from big CEOs of any other corporation saying we absolutely need to waive the patents on these vaccines, because that way we can immediately get back to work, and we can return to normal, and people can consume again. And it was in their best interest to say that, but they never really advocated for it. Yeah. Because everybody understands, once you start waiving patents, once you start opening up patents, then all IP law might go out the door or whatever. And I think that's the legitimate fear that is the reason why people don't say anything about it.
Yeah, it is really interesting because it is just a few big corporations putting the financial interest of virtually every other industry at risk.
And human beings.
And human beings. Well, that's like, well, yes, obviously, but like this idea of like, well, if you waive the patents, you may prevent innovation, and then one day we might need the innovation to save several billion lives, and we won't have it. But that day's now. We're doing it. Yeah. This is the moment. We need it right now. It's never been like this. Is a once in a generation, once in 100 years moment to deploy a technology that is owned by a privileged few to save literally billions of people.
Yeah, no, I love that argument. It's like, well, is this new technology, the mRNA vaccine? Like, what if they crack the code, and what if someone else is able to? The real scare there is like, if the mRNA vaccine process, because it's like relatively new as far as like medical tech goes, what if they innovate? What if some guy like literally finds the cure for cancer or something? And it's like, oh no, dude, what if someone finds the cure for cancer and that someone is not Pfizer? I will be so devastated. Like, try to explain that to normal human beings, please. And that's precisely why they have to fucking talk about like the logistical hurdles or make up fake problems like, oh, well, vaccine manufacturing in India is not up to standard for the rest of the world, when they literally are producing the vaccines for the rest of the planet at the moment right now. And certainly it is a fixable problem with like literally the snap of a finger, especially when someone is as powerful as Bill Gates and has that much money. They could straight up build a factory like in 4 days and make sure that it's up to code if they wanted to.
Well, it's just sort of like, okay, you say the experts say it's the waivers. You say it's the supply chain. Well, here's what we can do. We'll get rid of the waivers and then prove us right. Like, yeah, you're saying it may take a few months to ramp up at some of these new facilities. Okay, you yourselves, your Pfizer just did a whole fucking thing that sent the news into a tailspin about the fact that you think there's going to be a booster business, basically indefinitely. There will be more pandemics. We are chopping down trees with crazy animals in them all the time.
Yeah, we're destroying ecosystems. Don't worry.
Yeah, so there's going to be more. We need the facilities. And finally this week, the effort to oust evil Serpico, Liz Cheney, from the Republican leadership continues. Elise Stefanik, who was supposed to be some sort of new young Republican with ideas, but then went full MAGA and was all in on the coup, has emerged as the frontrunner to replace Cheney as the GOP conference chair. Stefanik is only 36 years old, and it's very exciting to watch her career unfold. Like, she could really be the first woman to successfully commit a coup in the United States. That is possible.
Yeah, as girl boss, slay queen stuff. I'm fully on board with that. I love that. The other up and comer in the Republican Party, unfortunately, was victim to the corrupt FBI investigation started under the Donald Trump administration. I'm of course talking about Matt Gaetz, victim to the real pedophiles of the FBI, doing inappropriate investigations to white hat pedophiles like potentially, of course, allegedly, like Matt Gaetz. Very, very concerning what they're doing there. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene does not care about Matt Gaetz's potential sex trafficking of a minor that is currently being investigated by the FBI. She's still hyping him up, even though they are QAnon. It just shows you where their priorities are, which is just making sure that everybody knows that, Will Ferrell and Tom Hanks are pedophiles and not the actual people that are allegedly and potentially sex trafficking 17-year-olds.
The previous Republican Speaker of the House went to jail for being a fucking pedophile.
Yeah. Dennis Hastert is, I thought that he was the record holder for the longest Speaker of the House.
I think that might be right. Well, regardless, he was the leader of that party and he was a pedophile in their midst, and it is not of concern to them.
Well, Jim Jordan, like he himself didn't do anything, but is famous for covering up sexual abuse that happened literally under his watch. So they don't care. I mean, they wanted to vote for the guy in Alabama, Roy Moore. I mean,
They don't fucking care.
Yeah, of course they don't. Just like, and this is going back to the same conversation we were having earlier, Mitch McConnell yesterday literally said, we are 100% going to do obstruction no matter what. Like, my entire goal is to, stop the Joe Biden agenda. And you still have this like willingness to compromise with these demons. I don't know where it's coming from. At this point, it's like, come on. In the words of George W. Bush, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you won't fool me again. Except the Democratic Party is getting fooled again for some reason.
Well,
I don't know what it is.
The problem is 30 Democrats can get it and 20 can't, and it doesn't matter because we need every single one of them. We need every fucking one of them in the Senate. And the last one we need is Joe Manchin, and all he wants to do is have bipartisan parties on his houseboat.
I think that they should be threatening committee positions. They should be applying a lot more pressure from the top down. I'm sure that you have more Democratic Party people that listen to this podcast than my Twitch streams, I assume. So, this is an opportunity for all the DNC operatives listening in. Put some pressure, do the thing that Kamala Harris originally did and Joe Biden originally did, and put some fucking pressure on Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. It's ridiculous that that's not happening every single fucking day. They should have sat down in the joint session and straight up been like, Joe Manchin, I'm looking right at you, motherfucker. Put your pocketbook down. Put your pocketbook down and listen to me, Jack. You got to cut the malarkey.
Cut the malarkey. You hear that? The exactly. DNC operatives. Hassan thinks is at the core of this audience. Hey, DNC operatives walking their dogs on Saturdays.
I don't know. Maybe they're just unwinding and listening to you guys.
Maybe you have DC and DNC operatives. All right, that you're not making the most of. No, you don't know.
They'd be into some kinky stuff. They're listening into what I have to say about them on a regular basis. But listen, like I said, it's crazy. There is no reason for Kyrsten Sinema to behave the way that she does on a regular basis when Mark Kelly is right there and he is more successful and more liked in Arizona. So maybe not the DNC operatives, but the media, the more liberal adjacent media, not addressing that reality is also mind-boggling all the time, where they talk about Kyrsten Sinema as though she has honest intentions and is legitimate in her opposition. And it's not just I don't know what word I should use here. That's not
I don't either.
Upsetting people. I was going to say it's so selfish.
It is
jerking off.
I think what's really so upsetting about it, obviously it's for all the obvious reasons, but people work so fucking hard to eke out this majority. They worked so hard, millions of people worked so hard to put Democrats in power. We have this one fucking chance. We have this one chance to earn it. Democrats are likely to lose the House if historical trends hold, right? You don't, the president in power loses seats. And that's before you get to redistricting. That's before you get to voter suppression. We have one opportunity right now to actually do some big things. And if we can't do it because Kyrsten Sinema was persuaded by some bullshit Morning Joe argument about the filibuster, she personally is going to put that above all these activists, all these people that are fighting so hard. We have this majority, we have all three parts. We have both houses and we have the presidency, and we're not going to take advantage of it. It's fucking infuriating.
Yeah, no, she's my favorite personally because she used to be like I think she was like ANCOM or something. She used to be like America KKK needs to be dismantled, like, you know, decolonize America KKK type leftist, and then now she's like literally the worst person in Congress. It's just fucking insane. Such a grifter. Yeah.
Hassan Piker, thank you so much. It was so good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, guys.